Sometimes it isn't shouting that hurts the most. It's the tone, the pauses, the way people speak as if you're already behind. You notice it in small moments, conversations that end before you finish your thought, advice you didn't ask for, smiles that feel like corrections. At first, you question yourself. Maybe I'm imagining it. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I should just try harder. So you do. You explain more. You soften your voice. You shrink your presence. And nothing changes. That's when the realization arrives, quietly, without drama. This place isn't built to respect you. Not because you lack value, but because some environments only feel tall when someone else is made small. Leaving doesn't start with packing. It starts with honesty. You stop arguing with what your body already knows. The tension, the exhaustion, the constant need to brace yourself. You say one sentence only to yourself. I don't belong where I'm not respected. Not angrily, not bitterly, just clearly. From that moment on, you change how you move. You stop over-explaining. You stop performing competence. You stop trying to earn basic decency. You listen more than you speak. You observe instead of reacting. This isn't weakness. This is detachment. You're not giving up. You're conserving energy. There's a temptation to announce your pain, to confront, to explain exactly how they made you feel. But quiet exits don't need witnesses. You don't owe clarity to people who never tried to understand you. You don't owe closure to those who benefited from your silence. So you prepare privately. You line up your next step, a skill, a plan, a door. You don't share your intentions with people who would delay you. You don't ask permission to grow. You move in silence. Doubt will visit you. It sounds like guilt. It asks if you're overreacting. It reminds you of the good moments. But respect doesn't come in fragments, and dignity doesn't require negotiation. If you had to beg for it, that was your answer. When you finally leave, it might feel anticlimactic. No one stops you. No one apologizes. No one suddenly understands. And that's okay. You weren't leaving to be seen. You were leaving to breathe. Afterward, something shifts. Your shoulders relax. Your thoughts slow down. Your nervous system exhales. You realize how loud disrespect was only after it's gone. Walking away quietly is an act of self-respect. It says, I know my value. I don't need to prove it here. Peace doesn't argue. It doesn't explain. It doesn't stay to be diminished. There's a moment that happens before freedom. It's subtle, almost invisible. You stop taking things personally, not because they stopped being personal, but because you stopped letting them inside. Their words still exist. Their tone stays the same, but it no longer hooks into you. You realize something important. People who talk down to you are often standing on something fragile. They need comparison. They need hierarchy. They need you below them to feel stable, and that's not your responsibility. So you begin to disengage without announcing it. You answer plainly. You keep your boundaries neutral. You no longer volunteer pieces of yourself that will be misunderstood or minimized. This is not coldness. This is precision. You give people exactly what they've earned. No more, no less. You notice how much time you used to spend recovering from conversations, replaying them, correcting them in your head. That time comes back to you now. You use it to think clearly, to remember who you were before you started doubting yourself, before you adjusted your tone to make others comfortable, before you learned to apologize for existing too loudly or too quietly. Leaving quietly means you don't wait for things to get unbearable. You don't wait for a final insult. You don't wait for proof. Discomfort is enough. Disrespect is enough. You trust the pattern instead of arguing with it. Some people will sense the shift. They'll ask what's wrong. They'll suddenly be curious. You keep it simple. You're busy. You're focusing on yourself. You don't explain the exit to the people you're exiting from. That's how you stay free. As the distance grows, clarity replaces confusion. You see how often your silence was mistaken for agreement, how your patience was mistaken for permission, and you forgive yourself for not knowing sooner. Growth isn't loud. It doesn't slam doors. It closes them gently so they don't echo back. There's a relief in realizing you don't have to fix this. You were never meant to. Some dynamics are designed to keep you explaining forever, to keep you proving, to keep you just unsure enough to stay. Once you see that, the spell breaks. You stop trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. You let conversations end unfinished. You let assumptions sit uncorrected. You let people believe whatever makes sense to them. Not because it's true, but because it no longer matters. Your energy becomes intentional. You choose where to place it, who gets access, what gets a response. You learn that silence can be a full sentence. You don't rush to fill gaps. You don't rush to soften truth. You don't rush to be palatable. You let the discomfort belong to whoever created it. This is where your posture changes. Not physically, internally. You're no longer leaning forward, waiting for approval. You're standing still. And strangely, that's when people stop feeling taller than you. Some will react. They'll push. They'll test. They're used to you adjusting. You don't. You stay calm. You stay brief. You keep kindness without being available. That confuses people who relied on your emotional labor. But confusion is not your emergency. You don't owe access to anyone who treated you like a resource instead of a person. As time passes, you notice something else. Your instincts sharpen. You recognize the tone immediately now, the subtle dismissal, the hidden condescension, and instead of freezing, you quietly note it. You don't internalize it, you don't debate it. You file it under, "Not for me." This is how self-trust is rebuilt, not through confidence speeches, not through confrontation, but through consistent alignment. You act in ways that don't betray yourself anymore, and slowly the old version of you, the one who stayed too long, starts to fade. Not in shame, in gratitude. They survived long enough for you to leave. There's a quiet strength in realizing you don't need permission to step away. You don't need consensus. You don't need validation. You don't need someone to agree that what you felt was real. You felt it. That's enough. You stop collecting evidence, stop rehearsing explanations, stop preparing speeches no one asked for. You release the need to be seen as reasonable by people who benefited from your self-doubt. You begin trusting yourself in small, unremarkable ways. You leave conversations earlier. You don't chase replies. You don't rush to respond. You let pauses exist, and in those pauses, you hear yourself again. Not the edited version, not the careful version, the real one. The one who knows when something is off without needing to justify it. You choose neutrality over niceness, clarity over harmony, distance over damage. You don't become harder, you become clearer. People who relied on your compliance feel it immediately. They may call it cold. They may call it distant. Let them. Labels are easier than accountability. You're no longer available for roles you never agreed to play. You stop absorbing moods that aren't yours. Stop managing reactions that aren't your responsibility. You let others sit with the consequences of how they show up. This is where peace begins. Not the loud kind, not the celebratory kind, the steady kind. Because calm used to mean something was wrong. Now it means you're safe. You take up exactly the space you need.